Hi, and welcome to Your Selling Podcast. I'm your host, Nikki Kirk, aka Your Selling Guide. In 2017, I quit a steady corporate desk job to travel the US in an RV. Along the way, I started selling on Amazon, grew multiple successful businesses, and wound up back to my roots as a small town girl. Today, I am still doing what I love, selling on Amazon and helping other sellers start and grow their own online businesses. Each week on Your Selling Podcast, we will cover different aspects of selling online and highlight other sellers just like you and I. From part-time sellers creating extra income on the side to full-time sellers growing million-dollar businesses. Think of this as a sit-down with your Amazon bestie where we can learn and grow our online businesses together. Welcome to Your Selling Podcast. Hey crew, and welcome back. On today's episode, I have Elena, an Amazon seller, and really, she is a serial entrepreneur, which you're going to hear. She has so many fascinating streams of income. I hope that you are inspired by one of them or a couple of them, like I was. She does just about everything. So with that, let's welcome Elena to the podcast.
Hi, Nikki. Thank you so much for having me in your podcast. It's an honor to be here.
I am so excited to talk to you not only about selling on Amazon, but more so about your travel hacks and how you use selling on Amazon to kind of do that too. So, with all that, how did you get selling online in the first place?
Yeah, so basically so I was pregnant in like a year, actually 2 years ago, more or less. And during my third trimester, I was like, hey, so I'm going to be going on maternity leave for like 3 months. And I was like, what is something that I could do to kind of like change my, not career, but like my financial situation at the time kind of thing. I do have a full-time job and it's getting paid pretty well. It's a six-figure job basically, and it's paying the bills and stuff like that. But I was like, I'm not gonna be reaching financial freedom with this, right? Like, so I've been like trying to do side hustle. One thing that I tried before was flipping furniture. So I go to like estate sale and then I buy stuff and then I kind of like just resell it. Sometimes you can buy IKEA furniture for like $1 because like people just want to get rid of it. And so I flip it for like 150. But the problem with furniture flipping is that you require a lot of you need a car, right? That's one thing. So we spent a lot in like U-Haul. So we will be hauling furniture around and things like that. And I was like, I don't know if this is sustainable because you only make like a couple of hundred and you can't always be finding furniture. So I got on YouTube and then I actually saw you posting, like you're like my inspiration basically in the beginning. I was like, man, you're making so much money with it, like right, like the revenue. And I was like, that's great. And I was looking how you were going to like different store and buying stuff and flipping on Amazon. And the reason why I thought Amazon would be good, I've seen ads before, but I never actually got to it. So I am in this Facebook group called, I think it's like 10x Travel or something like that. And there
Oh,
are a
nice.
lot of people posting about like, oh, I have a 20K bill coming up. I need to put it on a credit card so I can get points and stuff like that. So there are people that are like generating millions of points per year. And I was like, how are they creating all these expenses, right? And then this kind of like connected the dot of like, hey, wait, I can buy stuff, resell them, and I use credit card to do this, and I accumulate point that way, right? So when you have a business, like a legit business, you can start opening a lot of different credit card. And with those credit card, you get a lot of welcome bonuses. So every like few months, I will open like a new Chase Inc., for example. Chase is my main go-to. So I have been able to generate over 1 million in travel points from Chase and from Amex. So then I learned like how can I transfer points from this banks or this company into transfer partners. And that's basically how I started, like with the vision of like how can I travel more without using my own money? How can I create a better financial situation where I can get the freedom to travel with my family, right? And yeah, so Facebook, basically a Facebook group, and then like watching you doing RA, that kind of got me started.
That's crazy. Okay, I have a lot of different points here. So, first, I want all the listeners to know so you are an MIT grad, is that right? You have a whole like tech background?
Yeah, so I actually graduated as a double E. That's electrical engineering, and that was actually in Indiana. So like Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology is a small college. Then my dream as a child was to be an inventor. Basically, just like think of an idea and you can use your hands to create it, kind of thing, right? And I was inspired by movies. So that's like Meet the Robinson, which is like a cartoon, well, like animation movie, and then the other one is Iron Man. So like Tony Stark kind of thing, right? And I feel like a lot of people that go into like MIT, they're like inspired by like a science fiction something. And for me, it was Iron Man, and I really liked like the computer interface that he created, the AI agent that he created. So that was like in 2008, I think. I think I was in middle school or something like that. So it was just like I want to get into like this place called the MIT Media Lab, where they have uh, it's basically like interdisciplinary department kind of thing, where people that get into this department at MIT, this is the master program or graduate program. So it's master and PhD, so not undergrad. um, they all come from different backgrounds. Some are artists, some are engineers, some are, I don't know, like from law and stuff like that. And the funny thing is that my first year, I was actually with an actress. She was in Good Luck Charlie, so we were in the same year. And like I will see her in like the bathroom sometime and things like that, and I'm like, "Hi, how is Charlie?" or whatever, like to try to start a conversation. But it's cool because like you see all this different celebrity coming into MIT. I saw Rihanna one time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when she was dating like the prince or whatever.
That's so cool. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
I would have never thought of that.
Yeah, yeah. Like once you get into these places, you're like, man, the network and the people that you meet is like insane.
That's so cool. I love that you mentioned, furniture flipping because one of my, like, proudest little moments when I lived in an apartment in LA was someone put IKEA bookshelves out on the, curb for the trash or whatever, and I was like, "Well, these look fine." So I hauled them into my apartment, put them on, either Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or something, and I sold them for, like, $60. And I was like, "Oh, this is so cool."
Yeah, like it's incredible how much money you can actually make from like other people's trash kind of thing, right? Like other people's trash is a treasure for you kind of thing. But the other thing is just like about furniture flipping is that how do you know that there is no bed bug kind of thing, right? So I was like, I will be hauling this furniture back home, and I'm like, what if there is, like bed bugs or whatever bugs is in there, and then it infects my home kind of thing. That's one of the reasons why I kind of like stop doing furniture flipping. But it's a very good start, right? It's a very good like proof of concept that you can sell things online.
Yeah, you clearly have an entrepreneurial, like, spirit, and so that's, like, how I've been doing, like, I used to sell parking for a rodeo in my town when I was little, like, 8 years old, been doing that, so it's, like, always something that we're doing. You actually had some companies or have a company still, right? Bef outside of just Amazon.
Yeah, yeah. So I actually started a couple of companies now because I'm trying to basically, like creating different side hustle, learning how to kind of like optimize it, create system and processes so that other people can do it for you, right? You can hire a VA to basically do this different thing. And Amazon actually taught me this, right? Like I was like, people are hiring a VA from like the Philippines, right? And they're paying them like a salary, right? And then they to do very like systematic things or processes for us, things that are very tedious and it's just repetitive, and you can outsource those to someone else, right? So actually I hired two VA initially for my Amazon business, and I started doing like OA and wholesale and things like that. But that didn't go well with wholesale because we contacted like over 1,000 different wholesaler, and like none of them is like profitable, right? Like it's probably like 5 to 8%. Meanwhile, like RA, for example, sometimes we can get like 50% ROI, right? So then you have to kind of like think down to like 8% ROI, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this, like I can use the money somewhere else, right? And make like 50% ROI in a different business, right? Like, so the other business I have now is land flipping. So it's the same idea, right? But different assets. So instead of buying like clothing or shoes or whatever, now we buy land, right? And we flip it for a profit. We either develop it or just like literally just buy it and resell it right away. And that's it. So I'm in the beginning phase of it. So I'm still learning and like sending out mailers and things like that. Because for land, most of the lands are owned by like old people or like people that like inherited the land from like their parents or something like that, right? So it's like many years kind of thing. So some people own land for like 10 plus year, 20 plus year. So in order to reach these people who are probably in their like 50, 40, or maybe like I have people contacted me who are like in their 80s and stuff. And so you have to reach them by like mail, literally like letters that you send in the mail kind of thing. So that's the interesting part, right?
Okay, that's so funny because I get those, because we have land. They clearly don't know that we've developed it or anything, but I get letters like that all the time, so that is so funny.
Yeah. So my first mailer was like a failure because like one of the trick to land is to learn how to send low offer, like at a discount kind of thing,
Oh, yeah,
but
it
not
was a low
so
offer for
low,
sure.
right? So like the first one I sent was so low that people were sending hate mail back, and they're like, "You are like."
Oh my gosh.
I think I shredded them, but I took a picture of
That's
it, and they were like,
crazy.
"You're the worst person I've ever not met," or something like that. But I mean, that's part of the business. You kind of learn how to do your pricing better and be more competitive and things like that.
Yeah, so, for people who I didn't know this before buying land, so, people listening who have this will be like, "Well, duh." But so it has, like, the legal address, which is, like, all the weird, like, acreage or whatever, like, it's jumbled to me. So we got a letter actually last week, and I don't know because we technically own 2 parcels of land, they're just right next to each other, and I was like, "I don't know which one they want, but this is literally half of the price we paid 3 years ago." So, yeah, no.
Yeah, so like so we use like a software aggregator kind of thing that pull data from like the counties and stuff, so it actually tell you sometime if it was sold in a certain year and like they have owned this land for like a couple of years only or something like that. Sometimes it doesn't get you like the sell data, so it's really hard because like when you're doing the pricing, you're pricing for the entire county kind of thing, right? Or like per
Mm,
zip code or whatever, right? So it's really hard to price per land. So you're just like hoping you will hit a competitive price for 80 to 90% of all the mailers that you're sending. So it's really expensive because like every single campaign is a couple of $1,000 in expenses.
yeah.
So compared to Amazon, I mean, Amazon is the same thing, but land is more risky in terms of like you might not get any lead. You might not get any land, right? Like which happened with my first one. I spent like probably closer to 3,000 in mail, and I got zero because like I priced so wrong for the first one. And I was also hitting like counties. I was hitting states that is saturated, so that's like
Mm.
not great. So I should like look into what if I do other state kind of thing. So yeah.
So, I've always assumed sorry, I'm gonna stay on this because I just think it's fascinating. So, I've always assumed because technically our company owns the land, that's why they were targeting us because 'cause we're a company, but, it's not that, it's just we just happen to be the owners and company. Hey crew, is your Amazon business set up for success this year? Do you know how much profit you really made on the item you just sold? Or what about this? Do you notice when the Amazon FBA fees change on a product in your inventory? These are just some of the reasons why I love Sellerboard and why I've partnered with them on the Your Selling podcast. I have been using Sellerboard for 4 years now, and I absolutely do not know how I will run my business without it. I love how simple Sellerboard is to use. The desktop version is set up so easy. As soon as you connect your Amazon account, all of your products from the past, anything you've ever sold, is going to flow into that. And the way I love it and use it the most is actually when I'm outsourcing. I have Sellerboard app right on my phone, and I can visually see the images of the products I'm selling today, yesterday, last month, last year, whatever I want to look at. I can see it in real time right on my Sellerboard app. Sellerboard is an affordable must-have tool for all Amazon sellers. And as listeners of this podcast, they have given you 2 months free to try it out for yourself. There's absolutely no credit card required to sign up, and you can cancel at any time. Head to yoursellingguide.com/sellerboardprofit to set up your free trial today. Again, yoursellingguide.com/sellerboardprofit to get your 2-month free trial today.
Yeah, people are only targeting land owner. So some people, well, okay, so in the software, you can actually choose if the land is owned by a trust, by an LLC, or by individual and things like that, right? And so I try to target people, well, I target everyone kind of thing, right? But some people only target individual because when it's individual, it's basically like people that have probably owned it for many, many years. And that's it. If it's in a trust or in an LLC, if it's in an LLC, you kind of know that they probably bought it as an investment or something. So the price that they would want for the land is probably way higher. But you want to be buying at like literally 50% of market so that you can make 100% of your money back, kind of thing. That's how much you can make in land, and that's why I feel like Amazon is great star, but like land is like, man, it's not as saturated. Um, People don't talk about land much. If you listen to the Bigger Pocket podcast, which is the real estate podcast, I'm in real estate too. So like, you would you try to find land, and there's like not a lot of episode on land, and there's like probably 800 episode on that podcast, right? And you're like, so everyone is looking into like wholesaling house, buying and flipping houses and stuff like that, and people are doing great. That's fine, right? Like, but everyone is targeting houses. Land is like the secret, right? Like, it's like people don't think about it because it's kind of boring, and also not as cool as like houses, because houses, you see it on TV how people flip a ugly house into a beautiful house. But like, what can you talk about dirt, right? What can you talk about land, right? Like, unless you do like a huge development, right? Like from zero to like a million or whatever. So I think that's why like it's not as well known. But there have been a few podcasts coming out about land, so like people are starting to listen more and like trying to get into it. So I think now is a good time to get into it before it get like super saturated.
That's very cool. Yeah, so because there was no building or anything on it, so when we went to go get a loan, it was hard to get a loan because, like you said, houses are more normal and you have to kind of find someone. Are you, are you just paying cash for the land, or are you having some kind of financing you do?
So I am actually finding funding partners, and there are a lot out there where they basically go like look at the contract and see if it's something that they want to like buy, and they would like walk through the entire process. They would just like, it's almost like me assigning the contract to them, and then we split the profit 50-50. There's this one guy doing it. It's actually where I learned about land flipping. It's another podcast. And he have like this free land course on his like communities and stuff like that, and so far is like one of the best that I've seen. And it's free, so I was like, well, might as well learn it. And you can partner with him if you get like a good lead that he wants to buy, and he would like literally pay for the whole thing. And you don't have to do anything, right? So it's like, for me, it's not risky because it's like I am just spending money on marketing. And then if I get a good lead, I just give it to him, and he will go through the entire closing process and like resell it, and then the profit is split 50-50. I haven't done it yet, right? Like I haven't got a lead, but like in the podcast, you can hear him talking to people who have partnered with him and stuff like that. So that's the plan that I have. And I also got some friends interested in it, and he has more cash than I do, so we might partner, and he might be my cash partner and things like that. But there are definitely people out there, because think about it, like right now, in order to borrow money, people are okay with like 12%, like annually return, right? And let's say for land, it's 100% ROI that you get, right? Let's say you buy a piece of land for 20K and you resell it for like 45K, and it's like 5K to close or whatever, right? So you get a profit of 20K, right? So if someone else come in and pay the 20K, right, that become 40K, and then you split the profit of 20K between you two 50-50. That's like 10K for me, 10K for him. I didn't spend anything beside my marketing, but the guy converted 20K into 10K kind of thing, right? Like, so
Yeah.
like that's a lot of money.
What's the podcast name that he has?
I think it's called Turning Profit. Peter Reeves. I don't know if you have heard of him,
Mm-mm.
but like he basically just talk about land flipping, and he's like really transparent about it. He's like an older guy compared to, like, like the young people, and it's more. It sounds more transparent and genuine. And
Nice.
he doesn't go like, "Oh, this is the coolest thing." I mean, he does that, right? But like, he's not saying it in a way that like that you see a lot of like
Yeah.
guru and influencers say it, and you're like, overly excited. I don't know.
It's
But
not
like,
that like sleazy salesperson type vibe.
yeah, right. And like the thing is, he also in the Turning Profit podcast and his website, he also share like all the lands that he bought, right? And then he would say how much he bought it for, how much he profited, right? And like some interesting thing about this land kind of thing. He wouldn't say where he bought it, right? Like, of course, but you can kind of guess. Technically, he buy all over the U.S., but like from the picture, you can kind of figure it out. And I haven't done any flip yet. I did buy a land off of eBay for like $800 or something like that. It's insane. Sometimes you can find land that cheap, but like when you buy land that cheap, it's not that great. I could resell it for probably like $2,000 to $4,000, which is like 100% of my money. But the thing is, the cheaper the land, the more you have to deal with, right? Because like anyone can buy it, then random people will contact you, sometimes scammer and things like that, right? But if you're buying land into like 20K, 40K, and flipping it for like 40 to 80 or whatever, then like the pool of people that can actually buy this land cash is more serious, right? Like, so it's just like if you want to deal with like cheap land and like people in that cheap land area, kind of the audience,
Yeah.
or you want to sell like high quality land, like which is a more expensive, but then yeah, the people are probably better to deal with.
That's so cool. I love that you have so many different things going on. Okay, so going back a little bit, you were saying you started Amazon while pregnant, right? And you worked all the way until like you gave birth?
Yeah, I did. So it's funny because the day of the labor, right? Like I was having contraction in the morning, right? And I was like, all right, now I have to submit my maternity leave. So I didn't even take like a week before it and stuff, because I was like, it's all right, it should be fine. So the day of, I went to a park, took a walk and stuff like that, because I heard that while you're in labor, it's better to kind of like distract yourself and things like that, right? While you're having contraction, and the contraction was like far apart. It's like once every 30 minutes, and it feel like the period kind of thing, right? Period cramp kind of thing. So in the beginning, it wasn't that bad. So I even went to the park and stuff like that, and I have like a box of FBA, a box of stuff that I have for FBA. So I went to the UPS and I dropped off that box while having contraction. So yeah.
Oh, that's some dedication. Okay, now I'm interested because you've said you've racked up millions of points on your cards, which is insane because I've only gotten to like hundreds of thousands of points. But how much, like ballpark, you don't have to give exact, but obviously you're using your credit card to do your land mailing marketing, right? And you're using your credit card to buy Amazon. How much did you spend in a month, let's say, to get to this? Or how did you do it?
It's actually mainly from bonuses, right? So back then, the Chase, every single Chase Inc. was giving you like 90K in welcome bonus, right? And then I was basically applying using my social security number, and I was applying using my EIN of the business, right? And then I have a P2, which is my husband kind of thing, right? And I was applying with him as well. And then we have so the Amazon business, but we also have rental property, right? So rental property is another like source of incomes and stuff like that. So like just this three, right? I was able to kind of like, well, actually two of us, and then like companies and stuff like that. I think we probably opened like 6 or 7 different credit card in like the past years and stuff like that. So that helped me accumulate a lot of points, right? Like just right there is already like 700K more or less, right? But then like I have to spend a lot of money on Amazon, right? So at some point I was spending probably like 20K a month in OA and RA inventory. So that was during like Q4. Q4 is like the time where we spend the most money kind of thing. So that's where I get the most point. But like a trick is that I don't know if you have the Chase Inc. cash. It give you 5x points if you spend it in like, what is it, in an Office Depot or Staples. So what happened is that every month at Staples at least, they have the Visa $200 Visa or $200 Mastercard wave, and it happened like once a month kind of thing, right? And you get 5x for each, right? So over there, if you spend like $1,000 in gift card, Visa gift card, you get what, 5,000 points, right? So if you do that every month, and I think you can get like 8 cards every day or something like that. So I get a bunch of like those a gift card, and then I go to RA and I use the Visa gift card to buy like whatever inventory I need and stuff like that. So that's the trick to get more points.
Wow, that's a great tip. I never would have even thought of that.
Yeah, you can get so much from that. You have to be a little bit careful. I think Chase is fine, but Amex is like no with gift card. That's why I have to always be in this forum to kind of like learn more about like what is the latest travel hack that is legit. So you're not just like manufacturing points or whatever. Because that's why like having Amazon is good, because like literally I get the Visa gift card and I just like convert it into inventory and I ship it to Amazon, or resell it or whatever, right? And that's it.
Well, that's awesome. I love that tip. I'm gonna start doing that. Um, so you did mention before that you have a trip coming up. What is your like, where have you traveled? What have you been able to do, and where are you going next week?
So actually, one of the dream that I had last year, I think, was to be able to take my entire family. So that's like my parents, grandparents, on whatever, to Europe, because they've never been to Europe and they don't speak English. So I was like, I'm gonna go with them, right? So when my baby hit like 6 months and he have like all his vaccine and whatever, we went to Europe for the, well, for not for the second time for me, and I think it was like the first time for my family and for the baby too, right? So we went to like, I think 5 different countries in 2 weeks. All the hotel paid for, well, actually almost all the hotel paid for, because we actually booked Airbnb for Switzerland, and that was like cash, but all the others were like Hyatt, and Hyatt is like really good redemption. When you have Chase, you use Chase point, you transfer it to Hyatt, and with Hyatt, I don't know, which hotel do you usually go to, like Hilton?
I have a Marriott card, so I will usually stay at Marriott's a lot.
Yeah, so Marriott and Hilton for one night, sometime I think the minimum is like 30K points to like 50K points, something like that,
Mhm.
right? For one night. For Hyatt in Europe, for one night, you can get it for 5,000 point. Sometimes I think the average is probably 7 to 8 thousand points per night per room. So I was getting like 2 to 3 room every single night because it was I think it was 6 of us. And so most of the hotel were paid for using points. And if you do the math, it doesn't really like take that much point because it's only like 7,000 a night. And then like, well, 14 if you have 2 rooms and stuff. In Europe, it's kind of special because it's like every single room they have like occupancy restriction or whatever. So like one room can only have like 2 to 3 people or something like that, no more than that. Here in the US, I feel like they say that, but they don't really care, right? Like,
Right? You can shove as many people as will fit in that room. Yeah.
yeah, but in Europe, it's not the case. It's like they're very strict about it. So yeah, and that's how
So
I did it. Mhm.
that's so cool. So you got the flights for everyone too with your points?
Yep. With the points, so Air France have a lot of sales. Sometimes they have a big sale. So I bought during the big sale. That's like 50% off in terms of points. So I think I got maybe 22,000 points per person, but then you have to pay, I think $200 in like all the different fees and stuff like that. That's like the airport fees and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So in the end, I had to pay like probably like $200 per person or something like that. But from compared to like what it usually costs, maybe like 500, 600 to like $1,000 per ticket. So yeah.
That's crazy. Did you just fly, I don't know what they call it, international, like economy, basically, just like main cabin?
Yeah, main cabin economy. We haven't done first class because I love to take my family with me, and whenever we take families, like I mean, I don't have that much point for first class for everyone or business class for everyone, right? Like so, it's like a quantity versus the quality of the experience kind of thing. So for now, I haven't generated enough to pay for business class for everybody. So we're going to Iceland soon, and it's 8 of us. And I pay for everything with points as well. Some of them is like not points, but with points I was able to get I think the car rental for the entire stay. I forgot if it was 7 days or 10 days. I think it's 7 days, so like a week. And all the hotel using points, Chase or Amex transfer to even either in their own portal. I think Chase and Amex have their own like travel portal that you can book and stuff like that. um, or you transfer to like a specific hotel brand like Hilton, Hyatt, or whatever. I try to stay with Hyatt because of how cheap the redemption is in terms of like point. Hilton, I also have Hilton, but I barely use it because it just costs so much, 300 to like 50K for one night, like a double tree, and I'm like, I don't know. I think
Yeah, that's so I actually stayed at 2 Hyatts, one in the Dominican and one in Mexico, and they are really nice, so I might have to start looking into Hyatt because I have a Chase Ink, I've got a Capital One, the Venture card or whatever, I've got an Amex, I've got all the cards, and I do my points as well, but I feel like I have not been doing it the smartest way that I probably could. What are the ways, like, what are these forums that you're in or Facebook groups or whatever, if you don't mind sharing?
the one that I'm mainly at is called 10x Travel. That's a Facebook group. And then I follow a bunch of like influencers that talk about like miles and like travel hacking and things like that. And sometime on Facebook, if you search for like Chase Sapphire card or something, or like Amex Platinum card or whatever, and there's a bunch of group that you will see, and they mainly talk about travel hacking. Because the whole point of getting those cards is for travel. Like the Chase Sapphire. Here's the thing: if you have the Chase Sapphire card, which is a personal card, um, when you get all this Chase Inc., which are business, you can actually link the account, and you can transfer the Chase Inc. points to your Chase Sapphire. And the good thing about that is that the redemption, I think, is like for Chase Sapphire preferred is like 1.25, and then for Chase Sapphire Reserve is like 1.5 or something like that. So for every for I think it's like for every 1 point you basically get like 1.25 instead of 1 point.
Oh,
If
nice.
you
I'm pretty sure I have that Sapphire card as a personal card. I got a lot of credit cards. I'm just not using
yeah.
them right, clearly.
Just make sure like whenever you want to redeem your points from Chase Inc, just transfer it to your Chase Sapphire because you get way more from doing that. But you have to be smart about like if the redemption is worth it or is better to pay cash kind of thing by calculating how much point sorry how much in equivalent in cash it would be or something like that. So
Yeah.
if you're getting like 7 cents, I forgot, it's like 0.7 or is it 7 cents per yeah, I forgot how it works. I have to think about it. But basically like if you're paying like $100 for like a flight, right, and it costs like 10,000 points, right, in order to get the same flight, then it's better to pay cash instead of points because your points could be
Oh,
worth
yeah.
a lot more if you redeem it for something else and things.
Oh, that makes sense. Well, I've never been to Europe, and it's on my bucket list and where I wanna go. So, my goal has always been I would love to go on one of those, like, business class, which whatever, the lay flat seats, right? I've always wanted to do that, and I was like, I either need to make enough money, but now I'm thinking I just need to make enough points because that seems like the better way to go.
Yeah, like like I think like one of those seats is probably like a couple $1,000, but
Mhm.
sometime you can find it for like 45K points or something like that, right? Like one way though. Um, uh, and if you have like the welcome bonus for one single credit card, right? Like let's say 90K, then you can use that already to flat to Europe.
That's yeah, that's so cool. Well, you've definitely inspired me. Okay, but so your Amazon business, you're making profit in that business too, right? And you're getting the card bonuses.
Yep, exactly. So we're basically generating a lot of points from this business, but we're also getting profit from it. The profit is not that much, but at least it's something, right? Like I think
Right.
last year I probably generated 30K from the Amazon business. This is before like all the different expenses and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I still have to pay some to the IRS.
Yeah.
So still profit, I guess.
So you said you started on Amazon 2 years ago now? Is that what it was?
So around a year and a half ago, yeah.
Okay. Nice. And you're going to keep doing it in the future?
Yeah, so now I kind of scale it down a bit because one thing I noticed from my first year at Amazon, doing Amazon, is that most of the activity happened during Q4 anyway. And I
Yeah.
remember you probably said something like that too, because I was looking at your numbers and I was like, man, I surpassed her. Yay. But then
Yeah.
I was like, wait a second. Like actually, it doesn't really matter like the first Q1, 2, or whatever, right? Like Q4 is where all the activity is. So now what I'm doing is like I'm being smart with my time, right? Like I'm like, all right, so we're in Q1, Q2. I don't have to spend that much time on Amazon. Right now, my store is probably like I haven't touched Amazon at all, and I'm only generating in revenue, generating around 10 to 5,000 or something like that because I haven't been replenishing. But during Q4, it was like almost 40K a month kind of thing, right? And that's where you work the hardest. Well, technically, you only need to work like 1 month the
Right?
hardest, and then like it just pay off for the entire like Q4. So if you're like very consistent with it, you will definitely do well with Amazon. But it's just that now Amazon has a lot of restriction. I don't know if you have heard. Like I am in the
Yep.
clothing and shoes, and now before it was like what was it cosmetics and stuff like that. So when I was in cosmetic, that's where I started. I go to TJ Maxx and I look at the the cosmetics and beauty or whatever. But then like I was getting a bunch of letters like scare letter, like IP letters, and I was
Yeah.
like, how do you deal with this anxiety? And I was like, no, I don't want to do this, right? So I got ungated with like Nike, Adidas, and all this like big shoes brands and stuff. And then I started like doing RA and OA just with this brand, right? It's pretty safe kind of thing. But recently, in the last few weeks, they gated Adidas. And I was
Yep.
like, oh, and I haven't bought from Adidas for a while. So I don't have any invoices. So now I'm like waiting for Adidas to go on sale so I can buy something and just like get ungated back. But I also
Yeah.
heard that Nike is getting restricted to new sellers. Nike is getting restricted to new sellers. So like it's getting harder and harder nowadays to do anything on Amazon. So people are getting into Walmart, eBay, and things like that. I am on eBay too because eBay like you don't have to deal with like the return, the crazy return. But Walmart, I apply more than 3 times, and every single time getting rejected. And I'm like, how are people doing it? Like it's
Me
so hard to
too.
get. Right.
I've been rejected twice now, and I was like, well, I'm going to put that on the back burner for a couple of months, and I'll come back to it later.
Yeah, so like same thing, and I'm like, man, I'm losing all this profit now with Walmart, but like, because like people are taking advantage. It's the old like golden age kind of thing of Walmart, 'cause it's the beginning phase kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't been able to get in there. The other thing that I'm trying to do is with all this thing that you have at home now, right? Like all this product, I was like, can I get into the influencer program, right? Like this is
Oh,
another
yeah.
thing that people talk about, right? The Amazon influencer program. But it seems like you need a lot of engagement in your like social medias and stuff like that. And I don't have that because I've been pretty lazy with my YouTube and my Instagram. So I try getting into the program and getting rejected every time. And then that's how I kind of, well, this is like a side thing, but that's how I got into like the faceless YouTube side hustle. So this is like my like another thing that I'm starting.
You have
Technically, yeah, it's
you have
technically is to get into the Amazon influencer program, but at the same time, I got into like affiliate marketing and all this thing, and I was like, wait, I can actually make more money like selling other people courses or whatever, right? Like, so then I'm like starting affiliate, starting a faceless YouTube channel, and also faceless Instagram channel, and having like VA generate content and posting on it. But I started that like 2 weeks ago or something like that, right? Like, so it's still new. So I'm testing a lot of different side hustles still. But Amazon is the one that have stick, and I've been doing it for over a year, and it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, so I like you. So when you see where all the bulk of your money comes in, which is Q4, that's how I am too. I just like, yeah, my sales are not great right now. I don't really care. I'm doing like 2 shipments a month basically, and I've got my replens, my bundles that I've made. But other than that, like so 2023, my total profit from Amazon was 59,000 and 31, almost 32 of that came just from Q4. So it's like, do I really care that my sales aren't great in March? No.
Yep, yep. It's like I don't want to stress out about this, like I got the thing is when you're testing different stuff or different product, you might get into like uncharted waters kind of thing, right? So I try like selling coffee once, and then I got an IP, and then I was begging the company to take it off and stuff like that. At the end of the day, it got resolved somehow because a lot of people got IP for like that coffee brand. And then I was like, man, do I want to be trying different brand and seeing what works or not works and stuff like that? Because I did hire like a VA to do OA for me and stuff. And he would bring in different like products that were somewhat profitable kind of thing. But like at the end of the day, shoes and clothing for me was like really good. Even though the return rate is high, like the profit is like insane for me, right? Like because I was doing RAs and some OAs and stuff. So I stick with it. But now with the issue of like Adidas getting gated, Nike getting gated, like all this big brand getting gated, I'm like, man, I don't know what to do now. It's good that I branch
So
out into different businesses.
for sure, that's like every good entrepreneur has multiple streams of income. So gated Nike getting so Nike got gated for everyone who was already ungated. You should still be able to sell it, but if you weren't gated, or if you weren't ungated, it's like red restricted. Like you can't even apply with an invoice if you had one. But an email went out yesterday about Disney too. So who knows what the future holds.
Yeah, I don't think well, I don't know if I saw Disney. I haven't checked. But I think I got ungated in Disney. Hopefully,
Yeah,
hopefully
I
I'm
did
I'm
too.
fine.
It's so what's interesting in what I can gather, and this is not any kind of like factual base, but I feel like it's people within the last 2 years who are ungated because I can still sell Adidas, I can still sell Nike, I can still sell Disney, and I got ungated in those in like 2018. So I'm wondering if that is possibly why, but who knows? They could do anything. And the most annoying thing about both Nike and Adidas is they didn't even like shoot us an email like, "Hey, you have until this date," or shoot us an email and say, "Hey, we've gated this." You just happen to notice your stuff went stranded.
Yeah. I went to my account and I was like 88 stranded. What the heck?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it's still
wow.
stranded there, right? Like I'm like, I need to buy something from Adidas. So I went on Adidas website and everything was like either expensive or it doesn't have 10 units or like not listed on Amazon. So there's no like matching ASIN and stuff like that. And I'm like, all right, what should I do? Should I
And
wait or yeah?
even that I've heard people it's not working for people. So even that is just like just make sure it's refund or returnable because if the invoice doesn't work, it's crazy out there on Amazon. But I love
Yeah.
that you have multiple streams and multiple things going on because then you're not with Amazon goes sideways, you're not tied to that. Or if the land thing goes sideways, you're not tied to that. So that's very cool. And I have really enjoyed talking and just learning from you. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This has been great. Where can people reach out to you or follow you on YouTube and Instagram?
So you can find me at Apprentice Diary, literally one word, Apprentice Diary, no apostrophe, nothing. And that's on YouTube and also on Instagram. Yep. And then
Nice.
feel free to ask me any question, DM me, reach out to me. I'm there. Yep.
Awesome. I'll link all that in the show notes. And that's how I reached out to you also to be on this podcast is Instagram. So she's for sure answering her DMs.
Yeah. Thank you so much for all the value that you add through YouTube as well, because like that's basically how I learned
Oh,
about
thank you.
Amazon from you.
That's great. I'm glad I've been able to help. But yeah, thank you so much for joining. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
As I mentioned, all of the links are in the show notes, so you can follow DM and ask her any questions you have about anything from the travel hacks to land flipping to just about anything she does, MIT life. She's got a lot going on and it's so inspiring. Like I said, my goal is to get myself to Europe in one of those lay flats. So I am excited to use her tips and do some more travel hacking, join those groups and all of that. So thank you so much for listening in. If you would like to be on the podcast, if you sell in any form or fashion, I would love to chat with you. You can email me at podcast@yoursellingguide.com and we will get an interview set up. Until next week, happy sourcing.